In this example, I really want to show you how you can exceed the limitations within Cinema 4D material system. I believe one of the best candidates to show this is creating a car paint shader. Here under materials, there is actually a pre-made and predefined shader that is designed for this kind of stuff, and it's called Nuke. Let me just load it and load some color into it. So for example, something like maybe this red one. This is a really nice color. And let's apply it to the surface and see what we get. And it really doesn't look very extremely good, and let's try from another view just to see if we made a mistake initially. And nope, also from this view. So this can be used sometimes on some distant objects. You can try to dig in this shader and really make something useful, but I generally don't use this Nuke shader for car paints. And to be frank with you, I rarely use shaders other than standard material and this chin shader, which is awesome, which is really awesome and underutilized. And I almost always prefer this standard material because then I have options for displacements and all the channels are available to me. So let me apply that shader and let's build something that would not really be good as a car paint. So let me disable this specular, and if you look really close to some car paint, you will see that actually there is not a uniform surface. It's really dotted and somewhat noisy. So let's load a simple noise. It is just enough. Okay, so here it is under surfaces. And since this is somewhat of a cubic shape, I will just set this projection to be cubic and do a right click fit to object command just to avoid some later problems with texture scaling and so on. So let's do a test render. Actually, I could rename this. I accidentally pressed the R key. Let's rename this car paint. We have to scale down that noise, so we will scale it by increasing the frequency. Okay, so consider these settings as detail adding. So if we add 10 here, we will add some more detail. Okay, some more of this noise. It will be more defined, more detailed. Let's try something like 50. It could work. We really want fine noise, something like this. This could work. And we also want the primary color of the surface, and we will set it here. Let's go with that reddish blood red color we already used and leave that at black. And the reason for leaving it to black is simply because to have really a representation of that noise. Any other color would be hardly visible. White would be really unrealistic, and that is why I suggest using black here on the farmost right, which will be used to really pronounce that noise, and this left side is the actual color of the surface. This is pretty much it for the color, and the next thing I want to do, I want to enable this reflection channel, and you can see it completely eats up that color channel, and I have to drop that value to 0. So now we have no reflection. Or we can load a texture here or an effect or whatever you want to control that reflection. So I will load here a Fresnel shader, and the reason that I will load Fresnel shader is actually to get that really highly reflective surface when I look from the side and somewhat less reflective when I look from the top. We already discussed this Fresnel. That is a natural phenomenon. Now if you take a look at some real car paints, you will see some sort of small sparky scratches, some sort of really noisy and blurred lighted up area. The only way I can think of actually producing such surface in Cinema 4D is adding this blur. So let's try something like 10 and see what do we get. Or something like this could work, maybe even more. Let's try 20. Yeah, that could possibly work. And I want to add some more samples. I don't want it to be that grainy. Maybe I'll increase this to maybe 200 and that would probably be enough. Remember, increasing samples here is drastically increasing render time, as you can actually see right now. This is just perfect. This is exactly what I want, but I have a problem. I completely use this reflection channel and I can't add reflections on this surface. And this is where Cinema 4D stops in terms of general settings here around one shader. But we can always cheat and add something that is called a clear coat. And we will create a simple clear coat for our surface. And a clear coat is basically coating that will be applied all over this surface, but with a reflective nature added to it, so we can really have this along with a reflective coating, and that is exactly what we want. So let's try to do that. Let me disable this render window and guide you through the process of making a clear coat. The easiest way is to create an additional copy of your object and delete that shader. You don't have to scale anything. Okay? So refrain yourself from doing that. Create a completely new material. And this material will be called a clear coat. Okay? Disable every channel and enable transparency first. Don't change any setting here. Don't even change refraction, because that clear coat has to be clear, and if you add some sort of refraction to it, you will bend the light and it will not look really natural. Just make sure that this brightness value is not 100%. It can be 99, it can be 95 or 90, so everything between 80 and 99 works. So let's try 90. That's like a golden middle and a good starting point. And this is just one small change here. You can neglect everything else. So let's activate our reflection channel next, and we want 100% reflection here. And the reason for this 90 here, if you put it to 100, then the material will be gone. So now you can actually really nail that clear coat down. Let's try 99. Okay, that is too low, 95. So if we do a render now, we will not get that clear coat because this surface is in the same place as this first surface. So we have to find a way to offset this second surface. Let's call it clear coat. And we have to find a way to offset that surface just a little bit in all directions, just a thin layer. So first we will apply that material to that clear coat. We can offset that surface with displacement and tell it to go in the positive direction is to use completely white color. So load completely white color, and here under height, this 5 centimeters will be too much. Try something like 0.2 or something like that. You don't have to activate sub-polygon displacement here. Okay, so you will cut down on render time. So let's try and render that and see what do we get. I really like this already, and if you rotate it and look it from above, you will notice it preserves all that information from this first material. So let me just give it a little time. So you can see now you can really fine-tune this. And one thing that I always play with is this value here. Let me just disable that because it will distract us. Here under color, I load the same color as I used in this color channel. Maybe even 100. you saw a small change, but what if you tune down this Fresnel to 50%? It floods the surface with red color, and if I drop this to somewhere like 50, I will get the best from the both worlds. So let's try render now and see what do we get. And I'm really satisfied with this. If I somewhat tilt this surface just to see how it will reflect nicely, I will get that Fresnel effect also. You probably have noticed that render times with this clear coat increase, and that is true. And there is just a little thing that you can do about it, and that is compositing. So here if you select this clear coat and go under tags, for the tags you will find the compositing tag. And this compositing tag is really useful. You can say per object basis what do you want Cinema 4D to render or not to render, or what will be visible, what will be hidden, or you can really turn on and off some features regarding behavior of the light in the render. And for example, now in clear coat, since shadows take really long time to render, I can disable cast shadows. And it will automatically disable this self-shadowing, which is really self-explanatory, and that will prevent this clear coat to cast shadows on any other surface. It will receive shadows from other objects, but it won't cast the shadows itself. And now if I would enable shadows, I would have somewhat better speeds at render, but I have to warn this clear coat and a blur coat, which is actually the same thing, but with the blurriness applied here, will definitely eat up on your render time. Let me render that now. And that's it for the car paint.